Hi, my name's Tom Shue, and today I want to show you guys a little experiment I did with myself and some of the things that you might want to try to better your photography. So, what the experiment was try to make images without looking at the back of the LCD, just like I used to do with film cameras. Until you processed the film, you couldn't see what was going on. So, you have to be real confident with your gear to do this, especially if you're dealing with, all sky images or all shadow type images, because the camera is going to force the exposure one way or the other. Okay, so as you can see, we got this really cool tilt wing airplane that came flying across. Now the composition is terrible. I was so excited to see this thing in the air, I just put it in the middle of the frame and started taking pictures. And as you can see, by the end of this session, the images are considerably better than they were from the beginning. Okay, so now again, it's center in the frame. However, there's a foreground element that kind of gives you a scale. Let's move it forward a couple more frames and let's look. See, it's still in the middle of the frame, but I'm adjusting the camera. I'm using aperture priority mode, and it's taking care of the shutter speed for me. But I'm just kind of um, got it overridden a little bit. Okay, I've got it pushed one side to make sure that I don't blow out my sky, because it's going to make the sky, it's going to make it gray. So I'm going to overexpose, probably about 1.5 stops right here, just so that it opens up the shadow detail and you can see the plane. Okay, let's move over here. You see the plane looks big in the frame, but is that a crop or not? No, it's not a crop, but you have no idea until you move into something like this where you have this light pole. It's a pretty interesting image there because you can see that it's pretty low to the ground, but it's still in what I consider kind of a weak image. Compositionally, you know, it could have been better if I'd have cropped it in camera, maybe something like that would have looked a lot better, but I didn't. Okay, so it's a challenge that we all have, and we need to consider when we're making these images what we're doing. Okay, so let's move forward a ways. Once this plane went away, kind of got interesting over in this area when it got low in the ground. I did crop one so you can see what the difference would be if I had a longer lens, how I would have framed it. Okay, so once that went away, some more planes were coming. So I could see these planes were coming, and with a wide angle lens, a 105 is not really a long lens, and you can see that this is shot at 28 millimeters, so it's really wide angle, so it looks further away than it is. There's 105, that's at the longest end. You can see it compressed, and the plane doesn't look interesting until it gets closer, and then when it's framed properly, again with a foreground element. So I thought to myself, let's move over to where it gets into the site of the building. Now again, you can see that I don't have the camera very level, and I need to adjust that. But the images get more interesting as it gets closer to the building. So I thought, why not go to the side of the building where I can control where the plane enters the frame. Say for example like this. This is one of the first shots that I took. Now I'm trying not to peek at the viewfinder. It's kind of hard sometimes. I did peek a few times. But this is kind of where I ended up going. Is somewhere like this. Was inside these shops areas. And we'll move down a little bit further in the frame, and I'll share with you some of the images. So this is an interesting image where the plane's just coming right into frame, and it's not been cropped, it's not been edited in any way. You can see that the camera did a great job of grabbing focus, and I'm around about 90 millimeters there. Okay, looks pretty interesting there. I wish I could have been farther back, and I would have caught the plane over here. So now it's about timing and position. So let's move further into this work. Let's look here. There's another plane. This looks like a pretty interesting. We've got kind of a leading line going there, and the plane's still centered in the composition. Let's look a little further. Now I ran into some other things. You can see that I didn't have my shutter speed fast enough. So in order to get rid of the blur, again, shutter speed is not fast enough. I had to bring the ISO up to 3200 to carry f8. Okay, same here. ISO 6400. to get everything in focus, because I'm hand holding here in low light. So I found these shoes, and those were interesting to me. But this was a cool shot, I thought. This one right here, where this plane just kind of entering the frame. Um, but I kept looking for positions and angles that would give me interesting framing. Compared to the first shots, if you forward the video to the first frame, you'll find that this is a lot more interesting. Now, I was lucky enough to find another one of these planes coming in, and this time I jumped underneath this bridge to give it some foreground element, and these haven't been processed. You can see that I'm underexposed a little bit, and we can fix that. If we just auto-tune it, we'll get really close to where we want to be. And you can kind of see it wouldn't take much to fix these images up because all the data is there. It didn't clip the histogram in either way. So let's move over to the next one. Let's look at a few more. And you can see that that's a pretty interesting shot there. And going out the backside, there's another interesting shot. But then I start to lose exposure as I move across the back scene, and it starts to get too busy. You can see that it goes from a good exposure to unusable images that are busy and cluttered. And that's where I ended the session. So you should challenge yourself to let your gear take control, read what's happening in the viewfinder, and always be aware of how your composition is going to look in your final print. Be aware of everything, make great images. I want to thank you all for taking time to visit today, and until next time, we'll see you soon.